my name is Katy and Gilmore, and we're here at Dink Gallery where my current show is up. It's called Of Segments and Forms. So in general, that title kind of means that I'm really interested in how simple segments and forms can kind of be combined and create more complex shapes. I think inherently the world is just made up of all these different little segments coming together to create more complex structures, so that's something I'm really interested in exploring, and kind of how perspective connects with that, and you can create some depth in space by just using those simple repeated elements. And along with that, I'm really interested in perspective and how using these simple lines that kind of fade to a receding point builds that sense of depth of the world around us. I think the ways that we make up our environment and kind of understand depths and those sorts of cues is really interesting to me, and especially trying to do that with just simple repeated lines that kind of bend back in space. This piece shows something that I've been exploring a little bit over the past couple of years, which is these curves that are skewed to the side. I've used them before in hanging cords or different things that kind of show how gravity makes a curved shape. And for these diamond pieces, I have turned it on its side and then skewed it at an angle, which I think, along with, the lines kind of showing this, shows a little bit more movement and that the piece is a little bit more active. So I really love what comes about when the lines are compacted together, and I think it does a similar thing that the other ones that recede to a vanishing point do when they show kind of depth and perspective with the proximity of lines getting closer. It's exploring an idea I've been kind of working with for the past couple of years, dealing with these shapes called catenaries. That happens when you hang a chain from 2 points and the curve that forms because of gravity. But for these ones on die bond, I've moved that curve on its side and then skewed it a little bit to try to bring some more movement into the pieces, which I already tried to do with the lines and how they kind of converge or diverge. So that was really fun to work with on this one, and also it's really exciting to see the compacted areas that come about as the segments get closer together, like they do on the other pieces that are really just dealing with perspective and depth. This one deals a lot more directly with the vanishing point and what happens to the lines as they get closer together and recede back into space, and how that helps to build a volume and a structure. And also for this one, I've been thinking about 2 different shapes or forms kind of combining and overlapping each other. So that's what's happening with the split back here, the split up here. But in general, it's showing how you can kind of construct a form out of these simple line segments coming together and then receding back to a point. This wall was really exciting for me because the first time I combined small little pieces to create a larger composition. So I think it's really interesting that the wall itself kind of becomes a piece, but then in and of themselves are each individual pieces. And pieces that I've been making a little bit over the past couple of years have to do with just simple folds and how that can change shape, maybe throwing in a shadow of what might happen if you had just folded a piece of paper and then shadow was cast on it to kind of draw another shape. So that's what I'm trying to explore with these folded pieces. And then also these accordion-like shapes I started making for this past show, which I think also really just show how simple lines repeated, angles coming about can create some sort of movement, especially with this one as I skewed it to the side, kind of like the one I was talking about earlier with the catenaries being skewed to the side. But in general, it was really fun to think about all of these pieces that I made individually and how they might look good together to create one large sort of piece. So along with smaller pieces, I also work with murals and kind of dealing with larger spaces as a whole. And for this one, I wanted to explore the idea in 3-dimensional space. I've done this before with sort of like pliable forms that create these gravitational curves and things that happen, catenaries that I've talked about before. But for this, I wanted to explore how I could make segments that hung in the air and that also shifted as you move around. because they're hung at kind of different levels, but all in the same general slope, but put back on different layers. So if you're looking in front of it, you're seeing one thing. If you're moving around, it kind of changes and shifts, which I think mimics a little bit of what happens when I'm working on a two-dimensional surface with a mural or even with these smaller pieces. So that was an interesting thing to think about how I could create a sort of mural or drawing in space, and also to see how it would interact with the smaller pieces on the walls. As you walk around, it will overlap. You'll see it kind of going in front of other pieces, particularly with this wall of small pieces. I really like that view where you can see the lines kind of intersecting and crossing. And I think it creates a little bit of a mural just from looking at that view. So it was really fun to explore and think about how I could draw in space in this sort of way and create these segments that I do in murals.